Hello, my name is Declan Carlin. Today we're going to be looking at two films that came out in the same day in the UK. Rhyming. Both of them are polar opposites of each other. But yeah. So the first film we're going to look at is Bill and Ted Face the Music. Yes, the lovable duo from the late 80s, early 90s are back. Like 30 years later. So returning are obviously Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves, who are playing Bill and Ted, who are struggling in middle age to unite the world through song. So naturally, they have to time travel to steal it from themselves. Meanwhile, their daughters, Samara Weaving and Bridget Lundy Payne, are trying to help their dads by creating the best band in music history. I was expecting the worst going into this, because let's be honest, sort of remakes or revivals of old series hasn't exactly been going well, even if you use the same actors. But this was a pleasant surprise. Obviously a lot of this film is nostalgia driven, but there's something really likeable about these characters because they're sort of innocence and naivety. They're sort of very positive in their outlook. They're like the human equivalent of like golden retrievers. Their daughters were a welcomed addition, in particular Bridget Lundy Payne. Bridget really nailed the sort of vacant stare when someone's talking to her and then like the delayed reaction after, like a in-movie dad does. It's kind of strange hearing them do the classic Bill and Ted accents because those sort of surfer dude accents are really of their time, like sort of 80s, 90s. This film's actually quite funny in parts. I really like the incompetent robot that was sent after them. I like the return of Missy, who is now marrying Ted's younger brother. What makes this sort of work is that whilst it's obviously dumb at times, there's enough self-awareness to it. And they really did seem to capture that sort of feelings you get watching the originals. One thing I kind of wish had been included when the daughters were gathering the musicians throughout history is obviously a nod to the first film. But in the first film, we get these nice little moments where these historical figures are trying to interact with the modern world, and we don't get this in this one. It would have padded out the time, but I really like the fish out of water trope. I don't know why. Spoilers! The end song that was supposed to unite the world was pretty naff. And I understand the sentiment and the whole purpose was it wasn't so much the song itself, but the fact that everyone was playing along in the world. But it's just one of those tame, like pop rock songs you hear, really inoffensive. Has like that chanting so loads of people can sing sort of along to it. The only band that's ever pulled that sort of chorus sort of chant successfully is Arcade Fire because there's like 50 of them on stage. Yeah, I think this fits with the first two films, and I think if you really enjoyed the first two films back in 89 and 91, I think you'll really get something out of this. If you haven't seen those first two films, then maybe not so much. Pretty dependent on nostalgia and the original films, but maybe it'll make you want to watch the first two films, which isn't a bad thing. Overall, I reckon I'll give it a 3 out of 5. So the next film is The Devil All the Time, where strangers' lives seem to intertwine in a small community to horrific ends. So if Bill and Ted's like positive vibes, you know, fuzzy, warm, this film is the polar opposite. This film is bleak, dark, and depressing. I don't think this film will be everyone's cup of tea, but I can say that it held my interest. Whilst it's shot all lovely and pacing's all tight, one problem I have is I can tell when films are adapted from books, because very often with side characters, it feels like we're scratching the surface. For instance, I feel like the sort of final cat and mouse between two characters in the woods at the end most probably has a bigger emotional impact in the book. However, it did kind of make me want to read the novel. So you have a hell of a cast in this. You've got Tom Holland as Arvin Russell, a boy who's at times very similar to his father. You've got Bill Skarsgård, who plays Willard, a ex-soldier who's just trying to settle down. You have Robert Pattinson as a flashy preacher. You've also got like Jason Clarke and Mia Wasikowska. Also Harry Melling, who at first I was like, hey, that's the dude that played the villain in The Old Guard. And then I was like, hey, that's the dude that played the dude with no arms or legs in The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Then I was like, hey, that's Dudley from Harry Potter. So yeah, the acting all round was really solid. For me, the favourites were Harry Melling and Robert Pattinson. I don't know why, but playing like off dodgy preachers seems to always really work. Pattinson in particular, I'm just finding myself getting excited for whatever he's working on now. He was great in Good Times and The Lighthouse. I really enjoyed him in Tenet. Wish there was a little bit more of him. Oh no. I'm becoming an R-Pat stan. I really like the score, especially this small little piano motif they had. But I definitely had mixed feelings of the voiceover. So it was this lovely Ohio drawl, which Declan is currently butchering. Also, I'm pretty sure it's the author of the original book as well. Anyway, whilst it definitely fit the aesthetic of the film, my issue is when it tells us what we as an audience can already see is happening. Remember kids, show don't tell. Anyway, as Declan sits there pondering about his life decisions, or maybe just deciding what he'll eat soon, I think we can all agree this bit has gone on for way too long. So despite the performances, and whilst I did enjoy it, I don't think there's enough to it to warrant a rewatch. So overall, I reckon I'll give it a 3 out of 5. Thank you so much for watching, and bye!